with something. AC is now out in the show car. I call this a show car, not the race car, because it's just prettier. The paint's better, especially this weekend. Noticing all the cars, that car needs painted badly. But underneath is where it's definitely not a show car. What is pretty though is that I've got all butchered up from Dual Design. I love this plate, love how it ties into the bumper too, so it keeps the bumper from getting all messed up. But you can see how much it protects, because that's from like getting low or stuff coming up and hitting it. But I'm gonna turn the lights off because I got an AC leak. And I'm fat and I like my AC, so kick the lights off here. See if my got this little UV light. I've got dye in the system, and this should show. Oops, see if I can get it up here. If you guys can see right there, see the green stuff coming out? Means the hard line's got a leak in it. So I'm gonna try and fix it here. And also got one up on one of these fittings here too. One of these is leaking also. So I'm gonna replace all the O-rings and that stuff, but I gotta pull these shields down first. Looking up here, don't see anything there, but I gotta pull these shields down first so I can get to everything, and then give it kind of everything a little once over too. I wanna kind of look at this car. It's been a minute, because I've been focused on that for so long. All right, should be a little bit darker in here to test this, but I can see green leaking out of this. It's hard to see for on camera, guys, but I can see it leaking out of this. And then this is all wet and then stops here. You can see it's really green right there at the bottom of that. And this piece right here is actually this right here where it looks like a hole that's actually looks like a dandelion, or not dandelion, one of those fuzzies that flies around. But I think it's actually leaking from above, and from what I could feel, yep, coming from there, yep. Coming from up here in this O-ring area and then leaking down. So if it's just an O-ring, it'll be easy. And no one ever says that out loud. So we'll just count our blessings here, but everything else looks okay. This one's dry up here, dry on this one. So yeah, let's give that a shot. I think it's just this O-ring and this big fitting. So this one here looks like the O-ring needs replaced, and that should fix it. Let's hope. So went ahead and replaced the O-ring up there. You have to use certain O-rings for this. So I'm gonna pop this back on here. And again, I'm gonna replace this. Actually, I'm gonna spray this off too so it doesn't look like it's leaking. But clean this off. It doesn't look like it was leaking down here. Personally, I think it was coming from that O-ring because it was dripping down. It was wet the whole way and it stopped there. That plastic was acting like a stop point and it couldn't get past it and wasn't getting the rest of it. So must just had a slow leak because it lasted all last year. Turned it on this year, worked for a couple times, and then finally said, nah, we're done, we're out. You're gonna have to change this shit, son. So that was it. So hopefully that's all I have to do, man. It's an easy fix. Just gotta go get it recharged and we'll be back in business. So there's the O-ring. That was the wrong size. I think I used this. This is what I'm using this time around, which is a little bit bigger and thicker. I think the problem was I used too small of an O-ring. It was nice and tight, but it was also too tight that it was shrunk in, so I think it was leaking out past. It was just close enough. Again, it was very close. Again, this is generic kit. As you can see, all the sizing is in SAE for the most part. So the problem is it's probably just not right for the system. I need a metric set because this is a Toyota. I'm not sure if they even sell a metric set, but so yeah. So if this works for another year, that'd be great. One other thing I want to talk about, guys, quick, is also cooling. So on this car, we'll talk about the auto first. On this car, these electric fans are designed to actually shut off over 45 miles an hour. So once you get over that speed, the fans kick off. So it's running purely off the wind going through. The car would get up to like 200 degrees or so, and it just stays there. And it's happy. It truly is happy at that temperature. It doesn't give me any issues, doesn't fight me, so on and so forth. Just never has given me a problem. At first, I thought that was too high, but that seems to be about normal. And I don't have to worry about it. I think a big attribute of that is I have the Dual Design shields on this thing like you guys saw, and I think it forces all the air through, right? It takes that air, instead of running out the bottom, it pushes it all through the intercooler and through the trans, and then AC, and then the radiator. It has a lot blocking it there, and it seems to work really well. On the other hand, I tried doing it on this car, which doesn't even have a trans cooler, you know, very simple, doesn't have the same draw, none of that stuff. Tried doing the same thing, this thing started to get hot, hot, hot. So I think that little bit just in the front makes that much of a difference. And it's nice doing that just because when you're starting to race them, you don't have that power draw, you don't have your fans kicking you on. So I still think I'm gonna figure something out that once I get to a certain, like once I get above 80, they kick off or something, because I don't really cruise above 80 miles an hour, like truly cruise. So usually you're down much lower, but that's my personal opinion. I'm not sure what your guys' thoughts are, but I'm gonna give that a shot. Other thing I wanted to bring up with this, just having it up on the lift here, so you guys can see, if we can get down here, can we even see it? Just barely there. It ties in with the, oh crap, we're at the alternator line there, but the line for the cooler and to the trans, both the fittings back there are leaking. Those PTF line and fittings, they're just so rigid and stiff, they take all that vibration. I prefer Viton. It just works so much better. Same thing, I used them over here just to try it out. I used it here and it's so much stiffer. Same with this fitting here in line. I plan on eventually removing that and switching it all over to Viton. It's all right on that car. The fuel system and all this is Viton, thank God. I did all that right the first time, and like all the vacuum lines are Viton. And my brain said, let's try PTFE. Well, I know for 1000% now I'm not going to be using it anymore. There's a bunch of people that do use it and love it. It's just way easier. I converted my buddy Josh Madison over. It's just way easier to work with. It has a higher temp rating, so it has a higher heat rating for failure. It's way more malleable. It spins around, and it is like 99% safe with like all fuels, everything of that nature too. So coolant, all that good stuff. I think the only thing you can't use it for is like your AC system. I think there's one other thing. So you can use it with methanol and all that stuff. But it can't work with, I believe, the AC, and there's one other thing I can't think off the top of my head, but it works with everything else. And I'm not going to build it out for AC lines. That's high pressure stuff anyways, so I don't really care. It's just another little thing I wanted to say here. If you can, stick to Viton. Almost everyone has it now, so when they say ED5 safe, just make sure when they say ED5 safe, what do they mean? Make sure it's a Viton rubber hose. It's very malleable. It's not like nitrile stuff, so make sure, like you see rubber, so it could be nitrile. Make sure it is Viton, V-I-T-O-N. Look it up, look up comparisons, do the research yourself, but make sure it is made of that material. So, wanted to show this too. I got to back up just real quick. I'm going to be replacing this sensor you see right here. So this is like a traditional pressure sensor. I believe, I want to say I got this from Haltech. I believe it's a 500 PSI sensor. So I'm going to replace that with a, oh crap, I'm going to replace that with a Raceworks. So right here, I'm going to do the pressure and temp all in one sensor. So I'm not going to use the internal temperature sensor of this anymore. I'm going to use a pressure and temp sensor that's external. And someone's going to be like, well, why are you doing that? Well, this has a built-in temp sensor, but unfortunately, I don't even know if it's accurate. And since day one, it's kind of been a bit finicky for me, and I'm not sure if it's reading right. So if I get an external sensor that has it, I'm just going to use it. It'll be an all-in-one, so I don't have to add a sensor over here. Yes, technically it should be over here, but this is, in my opinion, better. Now, the only downside of using this port is it shows first, second, third, but fourth gear doesn't show line pressure, which really shouldn't matter because fourth is just for cruising. So you're not really tuning it in fourth, but we just leave it at a certain pressure rating and it works. Just for cruising on the highway, you're gonna use first, second, and third. But I wanted to swap that out because it keeps leaking because I have this straight out, because this is a metric thread into the actual trans. Then use MPT here, and I couldn't find anything that could angle it right because I couldn't straight out because it kept hitting the body, so I need to go this way. Couldn't 90 it because it hit the trans this or this way, and it kept hitting this sensor here. So there was no good way of doing it, and it kept, lack of better words, pissing me off, and that's what I came up with. So the new one will come straight out now, and I can crank it down as hard as I want. I won't have to stop at a certain point because it's not going to like face up. And I think this could go tighter. So yeah, I think that's going to fix it, and it'll have just a wiring whip, and I can just tuck the wires up and away instead of having like this long sensor fitting here. Again, it will be pressure and temperature. So it'll go to the sensor that we can't see that's down in there right now. So if I can get this to bend, it'll go to that sensor down in there, which you guys can just barely see. But that little nubbin that sticks out there goes to that little guy, which would be perfect. So it'll come straight out, just has a little wiring whip off the back instead of an actual plug off of it, so you can move the wires up and out of the way really quick and easy. And you just put a 3-wire, or in this case, a 4-wire Deutsch connector on it, because it'd be power signal, 2 signals for temperature and pressure, and then your power and ground. So a total of 4 wires, pretty simple. I want to give another big shout out to Raceworks and TI Performance because, again, this stuff is very expensive. So without them, I'm not able to do this. So shout out to you guys. I appreciate it. Again, by supporting those guys, you support me. So check out what they have. I mean, you name it, they have it. It is insane how much product they have on their website. If you name it, they literally have it down to, if you want electrical, you want fuel, you need anything, they got it. Like I said, I've been switching everything over. Next thing I'm going to do, because you see how nice and black my fittings are, right? Unfortunately, hers are starting to discolor on the car. Let's pop the hood here. These ones aren't so bad, but you can see how they're starting to like brown almost. And I got these literally discoloring in a weird way. Because people would say like, oh, well, it's just for the heat. Well, no, it's just the anodizing, I guess, failed. Because look at the fitting here versus here. Same fitting, but 2 different spots. So the anodizing that they did just didn't work. Look at the fuel rail, okay? Look at this. The intake manifold in this is actually black anodized. So is this here. So like, look, this is a Torx clamp.
The clamp itself is black, but whoever anodized this, or when they anodized it, you can see it's hard to capture, but you can see it's browning. That's what I notice on stuff that's not anodized right, or something that just happened to fail. Another good example, and I'm not digging at anyone either, it's just, this is how finicky anodizing is. Powerhouse Racing, this fitting's perfectly black still. It's been 2+ years. This is the one I got back in the day, same style fitting, but you'd see it turn like that purple color. The anodizing just fails. Now, they had actually sent me one. I must have threw it away. I'm a fucking idiot. They sent it one of the boxes and it's small, so I need to replace it eventually. But that's just the shit that happens. And no, that's not like a dig at anyone. It's just fucking anodizing. I love and hate because it's so hard to get perfected. You see back there, both those fittings, like look how close these are, right? To the hot exhaust and stuff, and they're not browning or anything. They're still nice and black. No problems there. The only spot I think I see a little bit of browning even over here, this is I think this is a Red Horse fitting, and that one, the 90 there, is a Raceworks fitting, which I'm surprised both of them aren't brown because being so close to that hot manifold, I'm surprised they didn't. I think even my wastegate stuff down here, you can see that starting to. This one over here, fine, but the one that's held underneath, it's starting to turn color, so I'm curious how that's going to hold up over time because it's just literally stuck down in there, and that's a ton of heat, so I don't know if it's going to destroy the diaphragm over time. It's just, heat is your enemy when it comes to that stuff, but sometimes it's just, things fail. And like getting back over to them there, what I mean by that is like, look at all these clamps. Like they make all these V-band clamps, they make them in complete kits, so it's like a 4-inch V-band clamp, which is one of the things I'm going to replace on hers. I have the original HKS, their style of V-band at the very back, and it keeps like leaking, so I'm going to cut that off and then weld on these. These are a male to female V-band flange too, which keeps it from leaking. So you get that nice seal, you don't have to worry about gasket, and you don't have to worry about it ever coming out. So I really like that style. They also sell intercooler piping or aluminum piping. I use it for intercooler piping, the quick clamps, and then fittings galore. I mean, they sell everything under the sun. Now I've got a little bit of everything in here between Red Horse, Vibrant, but they sell everything, and they're the full flow fittings, which I like. So thank you guys, appreciate y'all, can't do it without you. Same with Powerhouse Racing and everyone else, Dual Design, y'all guys are the best. But this car here, we're gonna get the transmission out next, and I need to work on this. For some reason, I don't think I'm hitting full boost. I'm gonna log it again here today, but the car just did not feel prime. So I took it out, which you guys can see the video here. I took it out, had some fun, but even that was on kill for once. Like that was on level 5, that should have been all the beans. And if you watch it, maybe it's just because I'm not up fast enough or where it was at, it wasn't smooth enough, so my body or my mind just didn't feel like it. Again, what my feeling is usually right though. Unfortunately, I had turned off auto log. Now it's another video I'm gonna do for you guys on this. So what I'm gonna do is, the car is currently set up that it just logs all the time. Well, it has about an hour and a half of logging, and I drive the car a lot. So I end up writing over something I want to keep. So what I'm going to do is this. I've got some factory buttons here. So this is one of them. So I have a factory slip control on off button. It's a momentary switch. But I can use this to like literally hit this, and actually I have it set up on my dash or somewhere else. So like when I click this on, that means it's recording. So I know that, hey, I can use this as a tell the Nexus to turn on for logging. So now it's logging. The minute I'm done making a pool, or if I'm doing something, trying to test it, click the button, turns it off. I don't need to have another switch. Now, I was talking to my buddy Steve. He's like, just get a keypad, get a keypad, get a keypad. I like this because this is just going to fit into a factory slot. I don't got to cut or do anything. There's already a factory hole there. I pop this in. I just run one wire down, and that's it. It'll be a output. It'll be an on-off switch, and that's it. I also have another one here, which is the factory spoiler. So this was the factory spoiler up and down over in the UK, and some places in Japan got these too. I was going to repurpose this. I even got the factory connector for it. So if I show you guys that quick, it came in this bag, but I don't think that's the right part number for this either, because the gentleman over in Australia sent this to me, which was very nice of him. But I got to figure out the connector for this one. I'm not sure which connector this takes. If anyone knows, if you guys could help me, I would deeply appreciate it. But it takes like this 4-pin, but it has a bunch of dead pins. Like there's nothing there in the center, so it's only 4 pins. But this is the one that's cool. Look how big this is compared to the other one too. It's a tank. But this is a spoiler on off. It has the factory light in there. So that's to put the spoiler down. This is off, auto off and down. So I guess it would do it like once you've got above speed, below speed, it would turn on off. I think that's pretty neat. But I did get the factory connector for this. So that is the part number for it there. This is brand new, you can see it hasn't even opened, but that's factory connector. Now I need to figure out which pins this takes, because I think this takes the large pins, which I do have. If that's the case, I'll be able to get this pinned up. So I'm debating either using this one or this one. This one seems to make the most sense, and I can repurpose this because slip control, even though I can do it through my BTI, it's pretty cool that I can just do boom, boom. I don't have to go through the BTI, just hit this quick boom, off, boom, on. And then again, I'm gonna output it to the dash because I have a factory one up there. They'll say like, hey, this is on or it's off. That was pretty neat. I figured you guys would think that's pretty neat. Again, I like keeping this stuff, and I want to keep the factory dashes as long as I can until the digital dashes get to the point that I can customize them, that they look like a factory dash, which people are gonna be like, well, that's dumb. Well, there's a lot more you could do then, a lot more programmable, a lot less wiring. You know, if I can run everything off a CAN bus, that would be great. Same reason I love a BTI. I don't have to have a million gauges. I have a gauge that does my boost, my traction control toggling. It's just a lot less wiring. It's a lot less headache. Less is more unless I have to hunt down and try to figure out what's wrong. It just makes life easy. So again, guys, on that note, thank you very much for tuning in today. We're getting another video series coming up here. I'll just talk to that in the next one. You'll see it. It'll be, I can't wait. I'm pumped. So thank you guys very much, and I'll talk to you later. Peace.